I'm so sick of winter. Seriously, in Sweden it's been so cold for like 6 months now and I'm starting to freak out. So to get into that summer and spring spirit, I am making this lovely dress today. It looks like this. It is a white and red candy cane striped dress. Took me about 5 hours to complete everything from drawing down all the details to cutting the pieces and to putting them together. The dress was inspired by a dress that looks like this, which is called the Lala dress. It's made by Hell Bunny. So if you want to know how I did it, then stay tuned for the tutorial. I always try to make a sketch for what I want to make, just to make things easier. So this is what the dress looks like at first. So it has a top with a bow and the straps. It has a middle waistband and then it has 2 skirt layers. I was going to do this like curtain thingy with the top layer, but I skipped that. So the fabric I'm using is actually from IKEA. It's red and white and it has white inside. It has no elasticity. It's really, really thick. So I'm pretty sure that it's curtain fabric. I'm also using red thread today and a white zipper. This one is 30 centimeters long and it has to be long enough to travel through all 3 parts of the dress that you're making. So the top, the waistband, and the skirt. These are the pieces that I'm making. I know this is a really bad sketch, but just to show you guys. So the first piece is the top and back piece. The other is the 2 strap pieces. Third one is the waistband, which goes all the way around in the red fabric. Next one is the band that the bow is put on. Next up are the 3 pieces that make up the bow, so 2 squares and 1 tiny square. And then that's the zipper. And then the 2 skirt pieces, the top layer, and the 2 skirt pieces for the bottom layer. I'm actually starting off with the bow today. These are the 3 pieces that I'm using for the bow, and I'm starting by placing the main pieces on top of each other with the insides facing outwards. I'm then pinning them together to make sure that they're really on there. And then I'm sewing them together by the 2 long sides, leaving the short sides open so that I can flip it the correct way. Once I've sewn that, I'm flipping it the correct way. And then folding the edges in like so and sewing them shut. This is the piece that will close the bow up, and I'm sewing that just by hemming the edges. Once that's sewn, I can try it onto the bow, and then I know where I need to sew in order for me to be able to pull this over the bow once it's been sewn. So marking where I'm going to sew, and then taking it off of the bow and sewing where I marked. And then pulling everything on top of the bow so that the bow is done. And then just cutting off the excess fabric from the back where I just sewed. And our bow is now done. For the band that the bow is going to be on, all I need to do is have this nice rectangular shape and then just fold the edges in so that they're nice and clean. So pin those and sew them shut. Don't need to do this for the short sides though, because this is where we are going to sew the band onto the top. it's time to attach the bow to the band. And in order to do that, I need to locate the middle of the band so that I make sure the bow ends up in the right place. Placing the bow onto the middle, following my marker needle, and then pinning it down. I'm sewing it to the band by the short edges and by the middle. If you're having trouble sewing this with using the machine, then go ahead and sew that by hand. Next up, I'm starting to work on the top, placing the front and back pieces on top of each other with the outsides facing in. I'm starting off by pinning the outer edges and sewing those shut. I am placing the two waistband pieces below the top pieces that have now been sewn together. The waistband pieces are also facing the outsides inwards right now, and I need to make sure that the edges are the same measurement for the waistband as they are for the top. Once they've been sewn together, I'm going to pin these two together with the outsides of the fabric facing inwards. The easiest way to do that is to find the edges of the fabric and make sure that those meet. And then go from there and pin all the way around. And then sew that shut. Once the two pieces have been sewn together, it's actually time to cut the back open because that's where we're going to place the scissor. So fold them like this so that you know where the middle of the back is, and then go ahead and just cut that open. After that, I'm making my straps. And the way that I do that is by folding once from one corner, twice from the other corner, and then a third time folding everything together. That way I get a nice closed edge. I'm going to pin that and then sew it as close to the fold edge as possible. After that, I'm making the hem for the top, folding the edge down, pinning it, and then sewing all across. The top now looks like this. And I have pinned the bow piece to the top, and it's time to sew that together. I'm sewing it by the short sides, but also following the long side as much as I can without sewing into the bow. If this gives you grief using the machine, then go ahead and do this by hand. Just make sure that it's really on there. It's time to start working on the skirt pieces. For some reason, I decided to do 2 pieces for each layer of the skirt. If you want, then you can go ahead and just make one big skirt piece and just leave it open in the back for the zipper. But I'm making 2 pieces, and for some reason, I decided to start with the hemming of the bottom. So I'm doing that for the top layers right here, but I'm also doing it for the bottom layer of the skirt, which is the red fabric. And next up, I'm sewing the 2 pieces together by the side so that they actually make up a skirt. And I need to do the same as I did with the top, which is cut the back open, because that's where the zipper is going to go. Next up, it's time to make sure that the waist matches the measurement for the waist from our top, which means we need to scrunch the skirt up like that. And I'm going to do that by creating folds all over the fabric. This is for both the top and bottom layers for the skirt. Now, you need to find your own measurements for this. I made about 8 to 10 folds on each layer. They're about 3 centimeters wide, and then you just pin that and go ahead and sew. So this is a close-up on one of the folds. You can see what it looks like. That just gives the skirt a bit of a puffiness that I like. So this is what it looks like when everything's been pinned, and now I'm gonna go ahead and sew that together. So sewing the 2 folded skirt layers onto the top piece all the way across. Next up, it's time for the zipper, and I'm placing it facing the wrong way on one of the edges, and then once I flip it over, it's going to look nice and correct. I'm also going to sew the bottom of the skirt, but I'm first going to flip it over and pin and sew the other side of the zipper. Once the zipper's been completely sewn on, then I can go ahead and sew the 2 bottom layers of the skirt all the way down to the bottom. Next up, fit your straps, put the dress on, make sure you get the straps where you want them, and then we are done, guys! That is it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, just go ahead and pop them below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys!